Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. Well, I got to tell you, it has been a absolutely fantastic weekend, mainly just because of the fact that, hey, you know what? I took this week off from my regular job, which allowed me to do something that I've kind of wanted to do. Wednesday, if you were listening, I rebroadcasted the Mark K show and did kind of a listening party. That was just absolutely incredible. That was absolutely awesome. And I appreciate everybody that showed up. I think I had something like 320 total with 160 in each, both on Rumble and on Facebook. And I know that some of you came from there on over to my channel and subscribed. And so I appreciate that for, just for the fact that you came over, you gave it a try, you watched some of my videos, and hopefully you liked them enough and you went ahead and subscribed for it. I may have to try and set that up again. So sometime in the future, of course, when Mark, Hannah, and Jay are not in the studio or broadcasting or any of their things. In fact, Jay just popped in over in Facebook. Hi, Jay. Thank you for coming. All right. So hopefully everybody's Thanksgiving was pleasurable. I'm not going to say perfect because nothing is ever perfect, but hopefully everything was pleasurable. Hopefully you had a lot of friends and family around and that you had some good food to enjoy. And that everything was really, really peachy keen. I know for me, I had a fantastic time. I had so much good food that it was just amazing. My son came over. It was kind of small, and just a family. But my son came over and he ate with us. We had some great turkey. I'm telling you, brining the turkey is the key. Seriously, brine the turkey. Okay. Anyway, well, my wife made the raspberry cranberry sauce and has not stopped eating it by the spoonful since. She absolutely loves it, and I like it too. So that's a hit. That's going to come. And then of course, Barbie's buns. I've been eating on Barbie's buns for several days now because of the fact that the recipe makes 20 and I don't have the army of kids and stuff around to go ahead and eat them all up before before we have to, put them into storage or whatever. But I will be making that recipe again. I'm going to tell you that right now. So those are all the wonderful recipes. You can check it out on the Saturday before. I think it's episode 153 was the episode where I talked about it with my friend Captain Unicorn, Captain Kirk Unicorn, Captain Unicorn Kirk, whatever you want to call him. But anyway, and he will actually be returning 1 week from tonight, where we are going to talk about unique gifts that are still available that we, in particular, between the two of us, pick out and hope that you guys might like as well. And we're moving that out. Usually I had that a lot closer to Christmas, but we both talked about it and we realized that sometimes people want to be able to order the stuff online that we present, and so we're going to bring them back. We're going to back it up to December 3rd. So anyway, all right. Tonight I have some. I don't know if anybody has been listening or watching, but just before Thanksgiving, Merrick Garland, or Meritless Garland, as Mark Levin calls him, went ahead and appointed a special counsel or special prosecutor, just like with the whole Mueller debacle. They appointed a special counsel to investigate Trump. Surprise, surprise. move doesn't really surprise me any, but the guy's name is Jack Smith, and we need to take a look at who this person is. There's been a couple of 2 or 3 exposés that the Washington Examiner has come out with this guy to talk about it a little bit, and I've got those tonight. And so anyway, so there's that, and that I've got that coming up. Plus, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the sales, Black Friday sales and things like that. There's a couple reports that came out on that. Plus, Biden made some really, really nasty comments on Thanksgiving, and I'm going to cover those as well. But before I get to that, I want to go ahead and talk. Oops, I lost my... Hang on, I lost my script here. All right, before I get to that, I want to go ahead and talk about tonight's affiliate, sponsor, whatever. And let's go ahead and bring up the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC, that's India Oscar Tango Charlie, .whiskeymusings, all lowercase, all one word, .online, has to be .online, not .com or .net, to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or, if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Now, this is a great stocking stuffer. It has got a 100-year guarantee. It also has a water-resistant pages. And check out this binding. It is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages. It has, like I said, a 100-year guarantee against defects in materials and workmanship. They will either fix it, or replace it for you. But this is a great thing for a stocking stuffer. You can go ahead and throw that in there as well. All right. So do me a favor, go and check them out today. And of course, you can get the Constitution at constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Go and check out their website today. And I thank them for allowing me to be not only an affiliate, but also an ambassador for them. Okay, let me get this off the screen here. Gonna yell at me. Also, one other thing that I did is this weekend, just yesterday actually, I went through and had to reorganize the Whiskey Musings store. Reason being is because of the way that I had it originally set up wasn't compatible with the way that my service revamped things, and so I had to change things around. That being said, all of those changes were actually in the back end, not in the front end. So the good news is that with those changes, it also brought in a bunch, and I mean a bunch of different variations that I did not have before. So if you go to store.whiskeymusings.online, that's store, S-T-O-R-E, .whiskeymusings.online, and go check out the store, you can get logoed gear. I've got shirts, sweatshirts, tank tops. I've got, glassware, things like that. And also I have a new hat. No, it's not the one that I have here, but It is a new hat that has my saying on it. When I drink, I think. Whiskey Musings. And I also have an entire line that has that saying on it, both in white lettering as well as black lettering. So I've been able to expand my offering. And right now, if you use the code Christmas, all capital letters, at checkout, you will get free shipping on on your entire order up until Christmas Eve. Now, keep in mind, these are made to order products. So it's going to take roughly 4 to almost 6 weeks for them to be created and shipped to you. So it is a little bit longer of a wait. But I know that they sometimes can go faster than that. So anyway, the point being is that's where you can go and take a look at the store. You can take a look at all the things that I've grabbed and put out there for you. Like I said, I revamped it, and so I made it a little bit more expansive than what it has been in the past, just because the way that I did it really probably wasn't the best. Okay, I understand you guys want my hat. A little story about this hat. This hat actually does not belong to me. Believe it or not, it does not belong to me. It was my son's. He brought it back from a soccer in the sand, a beach soccer tournament. He went to the tournament. It was held in Seaside, Oregon. He went down there and came back with the hat. I have appropriated it from him. And so that's why I have the hat. Okay. Now, that being said, I will see if I can find the hat and at least point you guys in the right direction to where it would go. Okay. I won't get anything off of that because it's not an offer, but yes, Amy, I stole it. You're right. I stole it from my own son. Okay. He didn't wear it that much and I went ahead and grabbed it. The other hat though, he gave me as a gift. He did, the other Star Spangled hat, that I have that you see occasionally. Yes, I have that. All right. Okay. So, the other thing is tonight's Saturday. So we will go and do this. On this day in American history. All right. And on this day in American history, there's actually several entries for Thanksgiving in this, but this one in particular is George Washington's Thanksgiving prayer. This prayer is abridged from George Washington's Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1789. May we all unite in rendering unto God our sincere and humble thanks for his kind care and protection of the people of this country, for the great degree of tranquility, union, and plenty which we have enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we had been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general for all the great and various favors which he hath been pleased to confer upon us. And may we also unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord and ruler of nations, and beseech him to pardon our national and other transgressions, to enable us all, whether in public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government a blessing to all the people by constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed, to protect and guide all nations, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord, to promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science, and generally to grant unto all mankind such a degree of temporal prosperity as he alone knows to be best. All right, and that is on this day in American history, as read from the American Patriots Almanac. I forgot to pull that up. And this is a book you can buy pretty much any place that books are sold, by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It's a great, great storied history, has entries for every single day, as well as several other bits and pieces of information throughout the entire book. It's an awesome, you know what? You could even get that as a gift. That's an awesome gift to hand out. Now, I know a lot of people are asking me what I'm drinking tonight. Tonight is the Four Roses single barrel Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And of course, I'm drinking it straight with my whiskey stones that I put in, that you could see right in there. Yep. All right. All right. So, just who in the heck is Special Counsel Jack Smith? Well, the Washington Examiner, and of course, keep in mind, Jack Smith was appointed by Merrick Garland, otherwise known as Meritless Garland, by Mark Levin. Jack Smith was appointed by him to get into and dig into former President Donald Trump. And this obviously is a big problem for most people because, you know, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't see why these people keep thinking that they can go over and over and over again, you know, trying to go after him. I mean, first it was the Russian collusion, which was a hoax. We have the whole, you know, PP tape, which was a hoax. We have January 6th, which now I'm hearing the January 6th committee is breaking apart or having serious difficulties and everything else. You know, all of that stuff is going on. And now, for whatever reason, they want to go after him yet again. They went after him at the FBI, went after him for, you know, whatever it was. I have absolutely no idea what they were looking for down at Mar-a-Lago. I'm not even sure they knew because the warrant was definitely more of a general warrant than an actual warrant. I mean, they've tried to go after him for for his taxes. I mean, seriously, this is pretty much an obvious attempt at a political attack upon a political opponent by the Biden administration. I'm sorry. Just going to call it. You know, if by chance there happens to be any liberals listening, guess what, folks? You're in the wrong anyway. So you know what? Just go on. But a couple of things that the Washington Examiner has brought up about Special Counsel Jack Smith. And you know what? Before I do that, I know that some people have mentioned about my background. Let me just step out of the way real quick so you guys can see it. This is my cabin background, and of course I added a few Christmas decorations to it because after Thanksgiving you can officially do Christmas as far as I'm concerned. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that my wife hasn't been playing Christmas music yet, but she probably has. I just haven't heard it. Anyway, to get back to what I was talking about, they have taken a look, the Washington Examiner has taken a look into Special Counsel Jack Smith. And here's kind of some of the things that they came up with. So this first one here is that he was apparently involved in the Lois Lerner IRS scandal. Now, I'm old enough to remember the Lois Lerner IRS scandal. So what is the IRS scandal? Well, let me show you. Apparently, there was a scandal that erupted in 2013 when the IRS was found to be targeting conservative organizations for harassment. And this was under President Barack Obama's reign. Okay, now, you know, Obama said that he called the conduct outrageous. There's no place for it. And he tried to assure that the IRS was going to be held fully accountable. That was his quote. Well, nothing happened. And, you know, Obama took no action. Obama basically handpicked his IRS commissioner who simply stonewalled congressional investigations at the time. Now, Lois Lerner, who was the head of the IRS unit at the heart of the scandal, she retired with a full pension and no disciplinary action taken against any IRS employees. Okay. So this had to deal mostly with the Tea Party movement and several nonprofit organizations that were, trying to raise money for conservatives and that kind of stuff. And so the IRS started going after them, and at the behest of the Obama administration. Okay. And apparently in October of 2018, the IRS signed a consent decree in federal court in which it admitted to targeting conservative organizations for more than 2 years from 2010 through 2013. And it confessed that its treatments of conservative organizations during the tax-exempt determination process, including screening their applications based on their names or policy positions, subjecting those applications to heightened scrutiny and inordinate delays, and demanding some of the plaintiff's information that TIGTA, which is the U.S. Treasury Inspector General Tax Administration, determined was unnecessary to the agency's determination of their tax-exempt status, that they were wrong in doing so. Okay? So Lois Lerner and her group was in the middle of all of this. All right? Now, let's go back to here. So who is Jack Smith? Well, he apparently was part of the Justice Department's Public Integrity Unit, and he, at the time, helped or really pushed to insert the Public Integrity's units in between or into the Lois Lerner IRS scandal. So he basically did what he could to insert himself into, or insert his unit into the organization. All right. And so anyway, the point is that he apparently was handpicked by Attorney General Merrick Garland to look at this, and Jack Smith led the public integrity section from 2010 until early 2015. He's also been said to have donated money to the Democrat Party. And apparently he was looking for ways, and this is a quote from Jim Jordan, says that Jack Smith was looking for ways to prosecute the innocent Americans that Lois Lerner targeted during the IRS scandal. And Jim Jordan is expected to lead the House Judiciary Committee next year. And this is what he told the Washington Examiner. Jordan and Representative Darrell Issa from California, who led House Oversight, sought Smith's testimony in May of 2014, saying, quote, "It is apparent that the department's leadership, including the Public Integrity Section Chief Jack Smith, was closely involved in engaging with the IRS." Now, Smith testified that month, this was back in May of 2014, that he spoke with the FBI about these nonprofit groups. And his quote here says, "We had dialogue with the FBI, never opened any investigations. Public Integrity Unit did not, but we did have a dialogue with them over time following this October 8th, 2010 meeting with Lerner." Okay, so basically what I'm reading out of this, and you can take a look at the entire thing, but this guy is definitely a kind of a political hack. So honestly, now this isn't the only thing, by the way. The Washington Examiner also has another piece where Jack Smith apparently has a mixed history pursuing high profile politicians. So let's just put it this way. This guy is tainted. Okay. He is tainted. And because he is tainted, it's making me think that there are definitely some questionable actions. And apparently, according to this article, during his years as chief, Smith's unit, again, the public integrity unit or public integrity section, okay, garnered a successful conviction against former Governor Bob McDonnell from Virginia, which was later unanimously overturned by the Supreme Court and pursued a case. I guess he also pursued a case against Democratic vice presidential candidate and former Senator John Edwards, which resulted in a hung jury and a mistrial. Smith's team also secured a conviction against Representative Rick Renzi from Arizona, who's a Republican, before Rick Renzi was pardoned by Trump in 2021 and laid the groundwork for what became the unsuccessful prosecution of Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey, who's a Democrat. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, but this guy really does not look like he is a really good guy to be doing this. And apparently, at least according to Buddy Weiser brings this up, that most of his cases were overturned. So obviously this guy is either very poor at his job, or he also has things of a very questionable nature with him. So I don't know if I would necessarily be, all that confident in the man. So why is Garland using him in this investigation is really the question. Why would Merrick Garland pick him? And the only answer that I can come up with, if the guy is really not that good at his job and has been overturned multiple times, why would they pick him? Mainly because of the fact that he will, quote unquote, find a crime to fit Donald Trump. And that's a common thing that, like, Dan Bongino keeps saying. Is Dan Bongino's like, they are trying to find a crime to fit a criminal or fit a person who is there. So anyway, the point being is this guy has just a seriously mixed success record. He has some questionable things that he's done in the past. To me, he is not the upstanding person that if they were really serious about going after Donald Trump, that they would want to actually lead something like this, because this is just crazy. This is just nuts. Okay. So I don't know where this is going to go, to be honest. And this is probably going to be dragged out just like the Mueller thing and be an entire complete waste of time, like Mueller and the January 6th investigation, which, by the way, on that January 6th thing, there is a estimate of like $8 million. So anyway, I don't know if you would necessarily put a lot of stock in this, but just keep in mind, this guy is not as clean and as squeaky clean as what he probably should be for this. And he is going ahead and he's got a checkered past. He's got issues. He's got problems. He probably he might even like sidestep the law a little bit in order to try and, again, fit the crime to a person rather than finding the criminal to fit the crime, the actual criminal to fit the crime. All right. So I wanted to bring that into light. And by the way, something a little bit later I'll get to, there's another article that talks about what's coming down the pike once the Republicans take over the House of Representatives. I'll get to that in just a minute. But apparently Biden spent time out in Delaware, I think. Was it Delaware? No, hold on. Wasn't Delaware. Oh, Massachusetts. So he went on Thanksgiving. He went out to Massachusetts. And of course, the press caught up to him. And he immediately started spouting off a bunch of things in regards to current events that are happening. Now, for those of you that may not be aware, there was a shooting at a Walmart where an employee went into the employee break room and, shot, I think, a couple of employees. One of them, I believe one of them died. I don't know the exact details, but it was basically a shooting. Horrific crime. But as we all know, Biden and the Democrats never bother to focus on the criminal. They focus on the device used, and because it happened to be what they consider an assault style weapon, which was actually basically just a semi-automatic weapon, Biden, of course, spouted off and said some things about this. And he essentially was talking about, now I'm not going to play the video. If you really want to know, the link's in the description. Go ahead over that way. Oh, buddy got me. He got me correction, 4 dead, which again is really, really bad. Really bad. But so a reporter got him and asked him, "Can you comment on the Walmart shooting, Mr. President?" And Biden says, "I am sick and tired of these shootings. We should have much stricter gun laws." After moving closer to the press and wishing them happy Thanksgiving, he went back to addressing the issue. "Look, the idea that we're not enforcing red flag laws, period, just based on knowledge, not on parents saying or a loved one saying you should arrest this person now for his own sake, is ridiculous," Biden said. "We've got one of the first red flag laws in the state of Delaware, and my son Beau was the one enforcing it, and it made a lot of difference. It saves lives. Number 2, Biden continued, "the idea we still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick. It's just sick. It has no social redeeming value. Zero. None. Not a single solitary rationale for it except profit for the gun manufacturers." When asked what he planned to do to crack down on guns over the next 2 years during his, quote, lame duck, Biden said he would try to get rid of assault weapons. Okay. So first of all, I'm just going to tell you this right now. There is no definition of an assault weapon. Okay. Assault is an action. It is a verb. It is not an adjective in the English language. To commit assault is to attack somebody with some type of a weapon or whatever, even your bare hands. But that is, again, it's a verb. It's not an adjective. So this whole idea that there's an assault weapon out there is just entirely wrong. What he's referring to, of course, is semi-automatic rifles. All right. And because of this, he is looking at semi-automatic rifles, especially those like the AR-15, which look scary and look like they, at least in Biden's idea, can spit off more rounds and those rounds can go faster than any other weapon on Earth, which is entirely false, by the way, completely wrong. But because Biden said it, that pretty much means that it's true, but it's not. But anyway, the point is that he's going to try to push again to try and get what he considers assault weapons off the board. Now, the funny thing is they haven't been able to actually define what an assault weapon is. Most of them are, and they also don't bother citing statistics. I have done shows on this in the past, don't remember exactly one, but I've done shows in the past where I kind of talk about this. I talk about the number of assaults or the number of crimes that are perpetrated by using an AR-15 is less than the number of crimes used using a handgun, less than ones, and those are even less than ones using some blunt object, such as a hammer. So realistically, all of this stuff is a bunch of crap. In fact, I have something here that if anybody follows me on my social media, which by the way is showing up down here, I've passed this out before on my social media, and I've brought this up just so you guys can see it. but it's a very good explanation as to what the Second Amendment actually is. And just to remind everybody, the Second Amendment is actually one of the shortest amendments that is out there. And it simply states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, this image here behind me, it actually talks about what each part or what each piece of this really means. The first one, well-regulated. Well, in the Oxford English Dictionary back in 17 and 1800, essentially means that, or essentially defines well-regulated as being in working order, in proper order, working as intended, so on and so forth. Okay. And they apply it in multiple cases to things like watches, or not watches, but clocks, your well-regulated mind, well-regulated, papers, things like that. I mean, this well-regulated courts of justice. The left keeps trying to push that the term well-regulated means basically, what am I trying to think of? I just had it in my head. Basically that the government is the regulation, government regulations are on top of these. Okay. Well-regulated can also mean, functional, well-trained, et cetera, et cetera. The term militia, essentially, because we didn't have a standing army, and in fact, the founding fathers did not believe in having a standing army. The militia was essentially a group of public citizens who were essentially able to provide immediate defense when needed within the state, okay, which is part of the thing where they were talking about the being necessary to the security of a free state. Notice they don't say to the security of a free country. They are talking specifically about the states, because to them, the states were making up the entire country, and the states actually, in their minds, usurped the power of the government, because in the federalist system, the federal government was supposed to be the least powerful. And as you got closer and closer to the local government, that's where things got more and more powerful, had more and more ability to, deal with people, because the founding fathers believed that to have because they had just gone through this, with the Revolutionary War, to have a far off dictator or a far off government was less, basically was less of a preferred idea than it was to have a government closer to you, where you would not only know your government, but you could also take action to a closer government rather than one that's being so far away. Okay. Now, the other one is to keep and bear, which basically means to keep and to have, to own and to carry, to keep, own, and to carry or bear the arms. And then, of course, they ended it with shall not be infringed. Now, there's nothing within this whole line that talks about anything about the type of arm. Doesn't say anything about cannons. Doesn't say anything about muskets. Doesn't say anything about repeating rifles, which is what we have today in terms of our semi-automatics. But back then it was more like the Gatling gun and so on and so forth. And for anybody that argues with you about the fact that they didn't have repeating rifles back then, that is actually factually inaccurate. They did have them. They just weren't prevalent and readily available to everyone, but they did exist. Okay. Now, that essentially is all that thing says. That's it. It's one of the smallest and shortest amendments in the entire Constitution. It's one of the smallest and shortest paragraphs in the entire Constitution. Don't know how Joe can miss all this, or anybody else can miss all this, but this graphic, if you look right down at the bottom, this graphic kind of rewrote what was written up here and explained, rewrote this in simplistic and more modern terms. So If the Second Amendment were written today, it might read something more like this. A properly armed people is necessary for the state to be free and secure. People can have weapons in their possession, and you can't do anything about it. That's pretty simple. I don't know how people can misinterpret this thing. I really don't. But they do all the time. And the funny thing is, there is absolutely nothing written in the Constitution that talks about what the people can and cannot own. In fact, if you read the Constitution has stated in multiple places that the governments, the federal government in particular, derives its powers from two places. One, which is the most important one, the people, and the second one is from the states. And again, and the states derive their power from the people. So the overarching thing out of all of this, if you read the Constitution, understand the Constitution, the way that it was supposed to be implemented, is that the Constitution simply states the people have the power. End of story. They have given the power over to the states, and through the states to the federal government. So the federal government is supposed to be at the bottom end of this whole list. It's not supposed to be at the top of the pyramid. It's supposed to be at the bottom of the pyramid. It's supposed to be the least powerful out of everything that we have, out of those three entities, the people, the states, and the federal government. The federal government is supposed to be the least powerful, the states in between, and the people themselves being the most powerful. I don't know why he keeps going after this. He keeps talking about this, but this is really, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see him try to get that through, because I can guarantee you that it's not going to go anywhere. And then he's probably going to claim, to be honest with you, he's probably going to claim, oh, the Republicans blocked everything. I was trying to save you, but the Republicans are blocking everything. Well, so be it. Whatever. You're wrong. I mean, just like always, Joe, you are off your rocker. All right. Yesterday was Black Friday. Give me a second before I jump into that. Let me wet my whistle. It's good stuff. I love it. All right. Yesterday was Black Friday. And of course, we all know that, Black Friday is, and it's called Black Friday, by the way. Guess what? Any liberal listening? This is why it's called Black Friday. It's called Black Friday because it is the day when retail outlets make up their loss in sales throughout the year. It is an accounting term. It is not a woke term. It's not a racist term. It's not any of that. It is an accounting term. When you're in accounting, if you are in the red, that means you owe money. If you are in the black, that means you're making profit. Okay? Simple. Anyone who knows about accounting and economics, Econ 101, would understand these terms. Now, the accounting side of the house, Black Friday, is when all the retail outlets are essentially supposed to make up their losses throughout the first part of the year, the first 3 quarters of the year, to come in and get their money in so that they transition from being in the red into being into the black, or in the profit making side of the accounting ledger. Okay. So the problem is this year, because of Biden inflation, they are having some troubles. And this article from Fox Business came out, and it says Black Friday sees low turnout in lines at retail stores. Shoppers had previously waited in front of stores for hours before Black Friday began. Now, the funny thing about this is I've actually seen a couple of things going around on Twitter in particular, where people are saying that they did there was somebody that did, I don't know if it was an anecdotal poll, if it was an actual poll, but roughly 81% of the respondents that they got back on this question were basically saying that they were not spending as much money this year because of the fact that Biden inflation has taken over. I totally 100% agree with that. Biden has turned this economy into a disaster, and people are hanging on to their money. They're doing it on purpose because they have to pay for what are considered necessities in today's day and age. Things like gas, rent, heat, food. Those things are taking up more of the disposable income of parents and households because of the fact that inflation has driven costs up so damn much that they are not, they don't have as much income to spend. And so unfortunately, what's going to happen is you're going to see less and less sales. Now, I understand that we don't know, we're not going to know 100% and in terms of what's happening here. And we also have to consider Cyber Monday, which is coming up on Monday, where everybody is going to be going online and ordering things online. But the thing about it is it's not only hitting like retail stores and things like that. And what a lot of people don't understand is, yes, we have a lot of large, big box stores, big national chains, things like that are out there. But what's really hurting also is small businesses. Okay. Now, the small businesses, according to this article in Just the News, 41% of small businesses are having problems paying their rent this month. And this was a report that just came out that 57% of beauty salons said they couldn't make rent, as well as 45% of gyms, 44% of retail, and 44% of restaurants, according to an Alignable survey. Now, what do beauty salons, gyms, retail outlets, and restaurants all have in common? It's pretty simple. It's kind of a rhetorical question, but if you think about it, if you really think about it, you might be able to find the thread that ties those guys together, that is in common across those guys. Pretty much everybody uses them as their disposable income. So when they have money to be able to spend, any extra money to spend, they go to the beauty salon. They go to the gym. They work out. They go to retail outlets and buy gifts and things of that nature. They go out to eat instead of eating at home. Well, if these businesses are not able to make their rent and pay their rent, that's an indication that the economy is not doing as well as Joe Biden and his fantasy land are attempting to make it out to be. And I'm sorry, but Bidenomics is having an attack on especially small business. So Alignable apparently released the survey, which found that the hardship varies by industry. Okay. And I already talked about that. And then making matters worse this is a quote from the article, from the Just the News article that came from Alignable. Making matters worse, this occurred during a quarter where more money should be coming in and rent delinquency rates should be decreasing. Remember what I just said about that whole Black Friday kind of thing? But so far this quarter, the opposite has been true. So this latest report continues to mention a steady increase in businesses that can't pay rent. So the delinquency, according to the Alignable report, last month, rent delinquency rates increased 7 percentage points from 30% in September to 37% in October. And now in November, that rate is potentially another 4 points higher, reaching a new high across a variety of industries. So essentially, when you see Joe Biden on TV saying that he's got the best economy and that America is, doing quite well in terms of the money, just realize that he's lying. Like everything else that he does in his life, he's lying. He is completely lying about all of this. Now, we also have another potential impact coming, and this is kind of interesting. In terms of a rail strike. Now, if you remember, I talked about this a few weeks ago. I talked about the rail strike that Biden supposedly negotiated a deal for. Well, that deal fell through. Okay. That deal fell through. And so because that deal fell through, we now have a rail strike looming again. And apparently the White House press secretary said that Joe Biden was directly engaged with the rail strike looming. But he, in his comments on Thanksgiving, again, he basically says that he was not directly involved. He has not directly engaged. So you got to ask yourself, which is it? Is it the White House's version or is it the president's version? Which one's correct? Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go with what Joe Biden said. He's probably not directly engaged because I honestly don't think he could be directly engaged on anything. But if he was directly engaged, I think it would be screwed up just like everything else that he's had done and turned back. Anyway. All right. So I hate to look down. I hate to leave you guys with a bad thought, but realistically, yeah, he's not all there, is he? Okay. So, shifting gears a little bit here. One other thing that Biden has done recently, we all know that Biden, we all know that Biden has a problem with the oil industry. We all know this. But apparently he doesn't have a problem with offshore oil. He has a problem with domestic oil. Why do I say this? Well, simply put, a report just came out. And when I grabbed this article is actually old, but when I grabbed this article, it was questionable as to whether or not he was going to do this. I've had it confirmed today that he actually has done this. Biden admin has given Chevron Oil pumping license for Venezuelan oil. Now, why is it that he can give it for Venezuelan oil, but he can't give it for domestic oil? What's the point here? I mean, again, the whole idea, I believe, is that Biden wants to destroy the domestic oil industry. He doesn't care about the rest of the world. All he cares about is what America is doing, what America is pumping. I mean, he's taking care of our strategic petroleum reserves. He's gotten rid of all of them. And yet, you know, I mean, he's taken it down to levels that have not been seen since the 80s. And now he's allowing Chevron to go pump oil out of Venezuela places. And of course, you know, I'm sure there's kickbacks and there's money and there's all kinds of stuff to kick back to the Venezuelan government, which, by the way, the Venezuelan government is a socialistic, communistic, Leninistic, someistic kind of government and not a democracy. Definitely not a constitutional republic like us. But anyway, the point being is that Biden will do anything to destroy American businesses. He is not America first. He is actually America last. And he does this not by his words, but by his actions. You know, my stepfather used to tell me actions speak louder than words, and his actions are absolutely screaming right now. All right. Be prepared, folks. Be prepared. We are in for a rough additional 2 years on this guy. And by the way, speaking about that, I really can't figure out how, we ended up with Biden and the Democrats keeping the Senate and definitely with the lower numbers than what was expected in the House. I mean, I'm sorry. I think my personal belief is that people are so disengaged with politics and they are just so disengaged with it. They don't want to be a part of it. They don't want to watch. They only vote for whoever the name that they recognize or the name sounds good. I even mentioned that on Twitter today. I was like, you know what? This is the problem, is that people are just uninterested and unengaged with politics, that they just vote for whoever they think, oh, that name sounds familiar. We'll go ahead and vote for that person. Anyway, all right. So some good news actually came out. So let me tell you a little bit about the good news. All right. So I've talked to you a little bit. In fact, I did an article several episodes back where I was talking about how there was a Chinese company called Huawei. And Huawei is a telecommunications company that is obviously owned and run by the Chinese Communist Party. But they were going around and they were buying up land next to Air Force bases and other military posts throughout the United States. In particular, the article that I brought up was talking about how Huawei's communications gear can interfere with our nuclear capability. And in particular, they were talking about places like out in Wyoming and Montana, where a lot of this farmland was being bought up by by Huawei and these Chinese companies. Okay. That being said, I saw this little number come out, and this is not the only article that I've seen that talks about this, but this is actually amazing that this happened. But check this out. This comes from the American Military News, and apparently the U.S. has decided to ban Huawei and 8 other Chinese companies. They have banned electronics from Huawei and several other Chinese companies from being sold or imported, a decisive step to contain the influence of companies already deemed national security threats that may be spying for China. Okay. The Federal Communications Commission apparently on Friday closed a loophole that allowed U.S. companies to purchase electronic equipment from the other companies, including Huawei, and that the U.S. government has deemed them too risky to buy from. And that's the FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr announced it. And you can see here on his Twitter, he talks about safeguarding our networks and strengthening America's national security. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a great step forward. But to be honest with you, until they ban TikTok, we're doomed anyway, because TikTok is on every kid's, even my own kids have TikTok. I told them to get rid of it, but even my own kids have TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese spyware. That's literally all it is. Okay. But anyway, what are we going to do? Well, there's another Chinese aspect, a Chinese concern that's running around here. Okay. And that is the fact that apparently, and I didn't know this realistically, but this comes from Fox News, which, again, not that I'm necessarily picking particular right-wing newspapers and stuff, but this the left-wing media is not going to be watching or not going to be talking about this, just like they're not going to be talking about the Hunter Biden laptop, even though, hey, the Hunter Biden laptop was actually, CBS actually recognized that the Hunter Biden laptop is real, does exist, and that the information on it is also potentially real. Anyway, okay, so Fox News reported this. Let me get this up. Let me get this up here. This is kind of interesting. Lawmakers are apparently concerned about Chinese drones that are now being allowed to fly around in restricted spaces around the Capitol. And it's drones that are produced by the industry giant DJI, that's Delta Juliet India, is typically equipped with proprietary software that prevents use in restricted areas like DC. But those safeguards are apparently easily bypassed. And a lot of lawmakers are concerned about this. So national security officials are raising an alarm on an increasing number of drones flying through restricted areas around the Capitol in Washington, D.C. The drones are almost exclusively manufactured in China and have become a serious concern for both safety and counterintelligence security. Government officials and lawmakers do not believe the drones have been connected to foreign governments or attempts to compromise U.S. Capitol security. However, the ramifications of the rapidly evolving technology could pose problems in the future as consumer electronics become more advanced. Now, I'm going to point something out to you. I'm going to tie this together, okay, for just a second, all right? I'm going to tie this together. Think about the impact. I've talked about this on another program. I've talked about it on other episodes. 90% of the electronics manufactured in the world today have some piece of tech from Taiwan in them. Now, that being said, I mean, this includes everything. This includes, China, Korea, Japanese, Vietnamese, any of those companies, even in American-made products, they all have some type of silicone in them from Taiwan. 90% in the world. What do you think will happen if China invades Taiwan? Now, I've been saying this on multiple times. You have to watch the Chinese and the Taiwanese conflict, because if China overtakes Taiwan, which conceivably it can and will do in the very near future, all of our electronics, everything, both military and consumer grade and commercial grade, all of this stuff will have nothing but Chinese made chips in them. Now, who knows what these chips are going to be programmed to do? We've already seen things like Huawei, where it's been shown in multiple occasions that the Chinese-made Huawei products have spyware and viruses and things like that built into the hardware, which is part of the reason why the FCC has said that we're done with them and kicked them out. But what do you think is going to happen to things like consumer grade products like drones and so on and so forth, that we as Americans are consuming and using? This is a big problem. This is a huge problem. And I don't think that anybody really is paying attention to this and watching it. So kind of keep an eye on this. I know I'm keeping an eye on this. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on the Chinese-Taiwan conflict and what they're doing over there in multiple occasions, and paying attention to what's happening, because I mean, Xi will just go ahead and do whatever he's going to do. I mean, let's be honest. He's already got Biden's already in his back pocket. We already know this from the Hunter Biden laptop. He's compromised. I'm sure he's gotten money from them. He's taken money from them. So, this is definitely, this is definitely going to be a big issue going forward. And speaking of the Hunter Biden laptop, everybody wants the Republicans to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop, and I'm fairly certain that's going to happen. But the Washington Examiner came out with this gem of an article today. In fact, this little gem of an article. You want to know what's coming, or what's potentially coming? Well, apparently, the House Republicans have put 42 Biden administration officials on notice that they are going to be investigated. Now, take a look at this. Take a look at this list. I just want to say, I'm just going to go through this list pretty quick. White House staff, apparently in a letter to Ron Klain, who is the White House chief of staff, group of 19 Republicans led by Jim Jordan from Ohio requested testimony from 4 White House staff members in relation to the Biden administration's misuse of federal criminal and counterterrorism resources to target concerned parents at school board meetings. Who are those 4? Well, Mary Wall, the senior advisor of the COVID-19 response team; Julie Rodriguez, the director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs; Kathy Pantango, policy advisor for intergovernmental affairs. Nestle Silva, the senior policy analyst for intergovernmental affairs. They also are requesting, the House Republicans are also requesting testimony from 3 of the Department of Education personnel. Kimberly Watkins Foote, who's the director of the National Engagement Division. Larry Bowden, who's the senior advisor to the secretary. Nicholas Simmons, special assistant to the office of the secretary. They're also going to seek testimony from 11 officials inside of the Department of Homeland Security, including Alejandro Mayorkas. We all know him. Ur Jadu, who is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services individual. Tay Johnson, who is part of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Carrie Doyle, also part of ICE. There's like a list of them. Now, here's the fun part. The Department of Justice. Apparently, in the letter sent to the Department of Justice, House Republicans informed Garland that they would be seeking testimony of the following 15 people. Merrick Garland tops the list. Lisa Monaco, who is the Deputy Attorney General. Vanita Gupta, the Associate Attorney General, and a list of a bunch of other notables that are all assistants and so on and so forth. They also are requesting testimony from FBI officials. Take a look at this. Christopher Wray, FBI Director, Paul Abbott, FBI Deputy Director, and a bunch of other people. So guess what? Us winning the House is going to be a really good thing. Now, somebody might ask that this is going to do nothing, that the House Republicans are going to do their investigations and it is literally going to do nothing. But the funny thing, and Diane, yes, Meritless Garland is on that list. Okay. She's like, what about Merrick Garland? No, he is on that list too. But the thing about it is that I'm not entirely sure that I really care about whether or not they actually get indicted or punished. We already know that to have a trial in DC is obviously slanted toward one political party and not the other. So the chances of them actually being convicted of anything is going to be pretty slim. That being said, though, what I am most interested in is going to be all of the information that is going to come out as a part of these investigations. Because I guarantee you, Jim Jordan, who literally is a bulldog. I mean, he has honestly impressed a lot of people. I know he's impressed me with the way that he's been going after these people, especially the Department of Justice. Senator Grassley is another one. Rand Paul is another one going after Fauci, which, by the way, there's talk of him getting investigated too. So there is a bunch of stuff that's going on. So us winning the House was imperative in this election cycle. Okay, so let me go back. All right. One other person who is also a bulldog, and I'm not surprised. I'll be honest with you. I am really not surprised that this is going on. But apparently, if anyone knows, Maricopa County in Arizona really, really screwed up this election. I mean, they not only put the pie down, they like planted their face in it 100%. And that pie that went down was a pile of dog crap that they shoved their own face into. They really did a bad job here. And as I expected, Carrie Lake is going to open up some lawsuits. And that's where this article comes from. She files her first lawsuit after the election. She filed it on November 23rd against Maricopa County. And it's not only her that's going after it. You also have the attorney general down there is going after Maricopa County. And I think there was somebody else. There was like another group or something that is going after them as well. So Maricopa County is in some serious problems and has some serious problems with that. I also think that actually Carrie Lake isn't even done with this one. I think that she has a legitimate question and a legitimate case for why Katie Hobbs did not recuse herself, being the Secretary of State, over an election in which she was running for the governorship. And to have that question, at least if nothing else, answered. Because I'll be honest with you, that in and of itself, and having Carrie Lake lost, even if everything was above board, okay, Carrie Lake has a legitimate question to ask. Why did you not recuse yourself? Because honestly, that would have been the ethical thing to do, would be to say, look, I can't oversee something that I personally am a part of. It is a conflict of interest. It is something that I definitely should not have been involved in. And I am clearly not the person to sit in the Secretary of State's position during this particular election cycle. She should have recused herself, put it in charge of somebody else, whether it was her deputy Secretary of State, whatever. I don't even know if they have one. But the point is she should have pulled back. Now, I'm telling you right now, Carrie Lake is not one to step down from a fight. So I honestly believe that she has a case. She has standing in the court system. And so I really believe that she will have a case, and we'll have to see how this goes on, how this gets figured out. But that being said, Maricopa County seriously stepped in it. They really stepped in it. Okay. All right. So I have a couple more articles here. They're not that important, but I'm just going to grab this. You can take a look at the show notes in the description of the video. You can take a look at those places. I've got several links there for a couple other articles, but this one in particular I found quite interesting. And the reason being, of course, is because of the fact that, Elon Musk taking over Twitter has turned the liberals completely upside down. In fact, today I saw a tweet by Ilhan Omar basically saying that she was gone off of Twitter. To follow her on Instagram, to follow her on Facebook, I think were her two other locations. Frankly, good riddance. You don't like it? Get out. I mean, that's literally what everybody else told, all of the liberals told the conservatives when conservatives were complaining about being censored and everything else under the old regime at Twitter. But in this particular case, this is an interesting development, and especially knowing that there is likely to be an investigation into the Hunter Biden laptop. This popped on November 24th from originally, I think, from American News, but the Post Millenial cross posted it or whatever. Apparently, Elon Musk is promising that all internal discussions over censorship of the New York Post's Hunter Biden story will be made transparent. Now, the funny thing about this is I actually saw this tweet. I saw Elon Musk basically saying, look, I'm going to go ahead and, bring all of this out. I'm going to search through the entire, stores and bring out as much as I can about this, is what he was inferring. Now, I personally have talked about this on this program, but the subheading under this article is a poll released in March indicated that 16% of voters who were unaware, that's the key word, unaware of the laptop scandal, would not have voted for Biden had they known about it at the time. Now, granted, that poll was a small sample size, but if you extrapolated that across the entire country, I'd imagine the numbers would probably change. But my guess would be it would actually be higher than just 16%. But I made the case on that episode where I brought this to light. Joe Biden only won by 4% of the entire popular vote, by only 4%. So extrapolating that number, 4 times as many of the people that would have voted the other way or would have voted for somebody other than Biden, 4 times the population would have been able to do that. Do you honestly think that that may have and likely would have changed the election result? And we would have Donald Trump in office right now? Had that happened? Had the New York Post's Hunter Biden story came out appropriately and not been suppressed by Facebook, by Twitter, etc., do you think that affected the election? In my opinion, absolutely. It 100% would have changed the election. So, for all of the talk about the machines, all of the talk about the cheating, all of the talk about everything else, this right here is definitive proof that 2020 was manipulated for the Democrats, for Joe Biden. 100%. Because they suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story. They tried to keep people from putting it out there. They got rid of anyone on social media who talked about it. I myself had some of my videos taken down. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube takes this one down because I'm making this claim. But the honest part of this is that you cannot sit here and tell me that the Hunter Biden laptop story being suppressed did not change anything with the election. Okay. Mail-in voting, there's some questionability there. The machines, there's questionability there. There's definitely a lot of questions that, honestly, we should be looking into. States should be digging into this. This shouldn't be a question. I mean, anyone who believes that 2020 was actually as fair and above board as what the Democrats would have you believe, you're living in a pipe dream, folks. I'm sorry. And anyone who actually stands up and says, hey, you know what? It was the most secure. Fine. Then you won't care if anybody looks. Now, I've mentioned this on the program before. A lot of people come back to the whole idea that there were 60 some lawsuits, everything, all these lawsuits, and they didn't go to trial. Well, as I explained to you a couple episodes ago, there's this thing known as standing. You have to have standing. And what that means is that you have 3 key points. 1, you have to have been wronged by the actions of these people. 2, you have to suspect that the actions of these people actually broke the law. And 3, the court has to be able to do something about it. If the court can't do anything about it, then there's absolutely no reason why you should have a case, which is part of the reason why all of those cases, many of them, got kicked out, especially, and I use this example, especially the Texas versus Pennsylvania one that went to the Supreme Court. It was kicked out because of lack of standing. The Supreme Court could not change what Pennsylvania did in their elections because of the fact that Texas claimed that it invalidated their votes. It actually didn't invalidate their votes, okay? And the court couldn't do anything about it anyway because constitutionally, the states are the ones, the state legislatures are the ones that control the elections, okay? So the Supreme Court actually did, believe it or not, did the right constitutional thing by not hearing that particular case. All right? And that's why all of that is the case. Now, I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you that, votes didn't flip, machines didn't do their thing. There were machines that were connected to the internet and they never should have been. That mail-in voting, I know, I live in the state of Washington. We haven't had Republicans win on the west side of the mountains at all since we went to mail-in voting. I fully believe, and nobody's been able to tell me different, but I fully believe that everything that happened or everything that happens with mail-in voting was test ran here in Washington first, because during the Rossi-Gregoire debacle, prior to mail-in voting, they kept finding ballots. Every time the vote count went for Rossi, which they vote counted it again, they counted it 3 separate times. The first 2 went for Rossi. It was the last count, after they kept pulling ballots out from cabinets and car trunks and all of these other places that they claim these bags were found, that all of a sudden, Christine Gregoire on the 3rd count got enough to edge out Dino Rossi. I'm telling you right now, that was the start. That was the whole, they believed that they had it. Okay. So that being said, all I'm simply saying, all of those other things are valid claims, valid questions, things that should be answered and should be looked into. However, the biggest effect, the biggest nationwide effect that happened was because of the Hunter Biden laptop story being suppressed and nobody knowing about it outside of the alternative media sources like us. Okay? There you go. All right, folks, that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if this is your first time here, run on over to Rumble, because Rumble is the free speech alternative to YouTube. Run on over to Rumble and set up an account, and then follow the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, or subscribe, I should say, to the Whiskey Musings Broadcast over there on Rumble. Get notified. I am at 430 subscribers there alone. I'd like to reach 450 by the end of the year. 20 new subscribers, I think, can happen, and it can be achieved. I'm serious. It can be achieved. I really do believe that it can be achieved. Also, again, check out my store.whiskeymusings.online. Check out all of the stuff there. Again, use promo code Christmas, all capital letters, and get free shipping now until Christmas Eve. And we'll see you next time, Wednesday night, on the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And also, for those of you who are a Catriot, a fan of the Mark K Show, I'll talk to you in the Rumble chat on Monday. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Good night, all.